Hi everybody, we're going to be looking today at Chapter 3 in our Bryk book. So this is going to look at the framework that we established and we talked about in Chapter 2. We have the framework that was tested. We're going to look at how it supports the improvements. When you are actually doing research studies, to have them be grounded and have actual validity, you have to see, did the tests actually help improve or support the framework that you were looking with. So last chapter, Bryk looked at 36 separate organizational measures. As I said when we did that lecture, you're not going to look at all 36 organizational measures in your schools. You're going to take a few of them. But the big thing was we changed those into indicators. We looked at the supports. And basically now we're looking at how student engagement improved and changes in student learning. So we're going to look at the 5 core supports, which is something that might benefit you as well. These are school leadership, parent-community ties, professional capacity, student-centered learning climate, and instructional guidance. What you want to do here, if you're going to use this book and you're going to use it for your case study or final paper, we're going to take a look at each of the 5 indicators. You're going to tell me how they can measure the settings in your organization. And I think this is the most important chapter and the most important connection to your school and the location that you're going to be talking about. So, school leadership. How is school leadership looked in your organization? Do teachers view their principals as a facilitative leader? Do they focus on parent and community involvement? Does everybody feel involved in the leadership practices that are going on? Do the teachers view the principal as having high standards and helping with instructional reform? That's important. Do you think the principal actually cares about your instructional reform? Do the teachers have influence over what goes on in the schools? As we've already said in class, I argue that's a subject matter specific thing, the level or grade level specific thing. If you're in an elementary configuration, the amount of influence a teacher has. So, is the local school council actually matter? Does the school board matter? Do the principals actually think that the program is coherent? And is the school improvement plan actually improving student learning? All of you have school improvement plans. If this was school reform class, we would be talking about those school improvement plans. But how do those improvement plans actually improve student learning? So parent-community ties. Once again, I argue this is also organizationally specific. Does teacher outreach to parents, does it develop a common goal and an understanding? Are parents involved in the school? Do they come to conferences? Do they pick up their report cards? Are they present in after-school activities and events? And as we all know, in our districts, it depends on the district. So, how do teachers see their colleagues? This would make for an amazing study. It wouldn't be an ed-admin study, but it would be a Stickle study for sure, looking at curriculum leadership. Do teachers feel like their colleagues actually care about what they do? Be great to figure that out. Are teachers committed and loyal to the school that they're working in? That's another big idea, and that could be more of a curriculum idea than anything else. So, this book, the Bryk book, talks a lot about safety. Remember the context, remember the years that this was done, remember that safety was kind of coming in as a new idea. So what do students think about safety inside and outside of the school and in their traveling routes as well? How do teachers report classroom disruptions? What do they do, what do they say, and do administrators get involved in that as well? So they looked at instructional guidance with math content only. That's important. The instructional guidance was really how the math content was disseminated to the students. Remember what we said in Chapter 1. Why did they pick math? Well, they picked math because the math improvements and gains were good enough to improve students at least one full classroom year with the math improvements. So then we had the evaluations, and that's figure 3.1 in the text, and we can look at basically how it improved reading, math, and attendance. Remember once again what we said about attendance improvement. You do it in the beginning, it's going to sustain, but it's not going to really, jet up and improve as much as reading and math have the potential to. So your changes really are going to come in math and reading, and in this study they were mostly in math, but it showed you the differences between a weak support and a strong support, so you should look at that figure on your own. So a lot of this is quantitative. I'm not going to focus on it. I'm going to focus instead on some of the indicators that were created from the school forecasts. So even when other supports increase, attendance does not necessarily improve. Schools can improve organizationally overnight if you make a good hire and you put a good principal in, get a good principal in play. Schools with weak parent involvement will have little improvement in mathematics. You have to remember why. Mathematics is something that if you have parent support at home, you have parents helping you with it, kids are going to have more exposure to it. In theory, reading is all around us. Reading is everywhere. Just looking around this room, there's a ton of environmental print around me, and I'm in a small conference room. It's even this thing I have, it says small conference room. But there's environmental print. There's not math here outside of a clock. That's to my left. That's it. Schools that have supports show gains. The big support that Bryk talks about is community building and community ties. So if schools improve attendance, it's not going to improve that much because there really is a ceiling on attendance. So reading programs have to really have strong organizational capacity. So if we're looking at reading, we're looking internally. If we're looking at math, we're looking externally. I think that was a big idea, and I think that was important. So schools that have strong indicator reports were 10 times more likely to improve reading and mathematics learning than some that were weak. Schools that had problems with safety and order didn't have improving attendance. Nobody's going to want to go to school if they don't feel safe there. That relates to Maslow and this hierarchy of needs that we talked about before. If school doesn't have the capacity to improve student learning, that can be a problem, and that comes with interconnectedness more than anything else. So you have to consider all 5 organizational capacities. My argument is, as a new superintendent, you can probably only do 1 or 2 at a time. If you try to do everything at once, that can be a problem as well. More capacity happens when principals buy in, when teachers buy in. Adults have to promote more challenging academic work. If you challenge children, they're more likely to do better. And instructional guidance has to happen at the building level, not necessarily at the district level, in order for it to be successful. So the next chapter really looks at those 14 indicators and how they can improve schools. So it's just basically a deeper analysis of what we talked about. So chapter 4, when you look at chapter 4, I don't want you to read chapter 4. I want you to pick the indicators that matter to you. You can scan chapter 4. You can probably be done with it in about 30 minutes because you're only going to pull what's important to you, but you won't get chapter 4 unless you really delve into chapter 3. Chapter 3 is the big read of this book. Chapter 4 is nothing. Chapter 4 is you take what you read in 3, you look at the indicators that matter to you, and that's what you write about. So that's it. Thank you very much.